Hey everyone, well, happy Monday. I am just leaving the Capitol after a wild day, and we are kicking off what is most definitely going to be a wild week. This is the last scheduled week of this Congress for the summer session before the August recess, when everyone goes back to their districts and does work in district for several weeks. And that always means that there's some amount of madness that happens, but in this Congress, anything is possible. This week, they have teed up some of the biggest votes of this year, and as you know, these guys have not been very successful in getting a lot of bills passed, and so it is a big question mark about what is going to happen this week. So I want to just make sure everyone knows what's going on. First and foremost, we have a president who is waging an illegal war in the Middle East, who literally has lied to Congress for months, and which has taken the lives of 3 more soldiers this weekend, and we are grieving and praying for the families. And they're coming back asking for another $73 billion to fight this illegal war. In fact, we are expecting that Pete Hegseth is going to show his face here tomorrow at the Capitol, and we know that the White House is pushing Republicans to basically adopt this $95 billion package to fund the war, to fund the president's efforts to implement the SAVE Act through states by using financial incentives, basically your taxpayer dollars for voter ID laws. And they're also trying to essentially support farmers after the president's tariffs have just eviscerated our farmers and ranchers for the last several months. So that is that package. None of it is offset. It's going to cost the taxpayers $95 billion, not just in your taxpayer money, but also in deficit spending. And yeah, basically it's just another slush fund for the president with no strings attached. In addition to that, the Republicans have realized that they are headed for a potential shutdown because they're having so much trouble passing regular budget bills. There's so much infighting. They can't even pass rules here in Congress these days. And so they are suddenly seeking to pass a continuing resolution basically until December 4th. So that means that when the fiscal year ends at the end of September, rather than having a big budget fight here in Congress over the actual budget, they would do a stopgap funding measure to get them till December 4th after the election. And meanwhile, the White House sent over a whole list of anomalies of stuff they're asking for that's like stuff they want. So they don't want to pass a real budget and go through the real process and honor all the hearings and markups and public input that was already given. They just want to do what they want to do here without any public oversight. They are also trying to pass the National Defense Authorization Act. Of course, this is very controversial. While this illegal war is going on, that also authorizes additional spending in addition to the routine business of the military and defense and national security. And frankly, this is a bill that is normally bipartisan, but because of everything that's happening, it is not in this moment. And it's a mess. And they're not even sure if they're going to be able to pass it. And there is some talk that the president is going to try to force them to attach the SAVE Act to the defense bill. Now, speaking of the SAVE Act, among the bills they have actually attached the SAVE Act to is the Stock Act. And, you know, Americans are pretty much universally united around the idea that members of Congress should not be allowed to trade stocks while they're serving in office, because when you serve in these roles, you have hearings, you know things are going on, and basically insider trading, which the president and many members of his cabinet and frankly a lot of our congressional colleagues seem to be engaged in some form of, should be illegal. It's a violation of the public trust. Now, let me just be clear, I don't even have any stocks, so this is not an issue for me. I'm a working class kid from New Mexico. But the reality is, if you sit in a public trust and you have access to information that could make you money, you should not be able to do that off of your election. So this should have been a no-brainer. This should have been a slam dunk. But unfortunately, they attached parts of the SAVE Act to the stock trading bill. So we're voting no. So all that is happening. We are also continuing our Epstein investigation. As you know, they are still trying to get Todd Blanche confirmed. We're not clear where and how that is headed. I think that there is a lot of deep concern, especially after his confirmation hearings last week and his performance and treatment of the Epstein survivors, that our colleagues across the aisle seem like they may allow his nomination to move forward. And so we just got to continue to raise our voices and to say, hell no, just hell no. He has no business serving as AG. He's been breaking the law, weaponizing the government, and denying justice to not only the Epstein survivors, but engaging in all kinds of nefarious activities as the deputy and acting AG. In addition to the Todd Blanche situation, we have a deposition later this week with Jess Staley, who's a businessman who was a longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who is accused of crimes. We're still trying to get Leon Black back after he literally walked out of our transcribed interview. And we're trying to get Alan Dershowitz in, who is the attorney who represented Epstein and is also accused of crimes, and who was a no-show to his appearance before the committee today. So lots going on there. We also are joined here in Washington this week with tribal leaders from across New Mexico. Our Pueblo governors, lieutenant governors, and leaders from across the state are here, and we are standing united in opposition to the efforts to undo protections for Chaco Canyon. If you have not yet weighed in, make your voice loud and clear. Make sure you submit a public comment. We're also fighting back against the taking away of protections for Bears Ears. We're also fighting the attacks on our monuments, on the National Mall and the White House, and of course on the Smithsonian. There will be a hearing tomorrow in the DOJ subcommittee. They are back to their old dirty tricks once again. It's very disappointing after everything we've been through, but here we are. And of course, we're fighting back against all the corruption happening every single day. It's a lot, it's exhausting, but here we are. And in spite of all that, we're still trying to do some good stuff here in Congress. Every day we are pounding the pavement, finding the wins where we can, bringing money home to our communities, working on all the issues that New Mexicans care about. This week we are introducing a bipartisan bill to increase teacher pay for our tribal teachers working in tribal schools. We're also introducing a bill to address public health issues in tribal communities. So we're doing the work, we're fighting the good fight, and it's going to be a wild week, you guys. So stay tuned, and I will see you all soon. Bye, everyone.